I don't think I like it. We had a page count and we had to meet it. Oh my god. Do I peel off the 20-year-old sticker? Hello, my name is Mel. Thank you so much for being here. This is my mum. Very talented seamstress, extremely intelligent, reserved and introspective. A real gatherer of people, a ferocious reader, and of course, the best mum that there ever was. My mum passed away when I was 18. She had pancreatic cancer. So it's a shame that as an adult, I never really got to connect with my mum about books. You know, as we grew up, mums make sacrifices and most of her hobbies were sacrificed. She didn't play sport anymore. She didn't have a lot of time for crafting like she was good at, but she read. She always read. And when she discovered that Kindle, she was away. So when we were cleaning out her stuff, the books were divvied up amongst her siblings, myself, my sister, and the op shop. So I thought, in celebration of her birthday, that I would read some of them, because it's been 9 years this year that she's been gone, and I've never read any of them. So here we are at the bedroom bookshelf, which is a hodgepodge of her books, my books, books I've been gifted, Will's books, and I already know what I've read, but you don't. So let's take you through. So common authors, I have a couple of Katie Fords, a couple of Mary Higgins Clarks, and a few Belva Plains. My mum and I definitely share a love of World War II fiction, so there are a couple of those in there as well. A couple of classic, and a couple that I couldn't even tell you what they're about now. So to walk you through my thought process, I wanted to read some of the common authors. Now, obviously, this isn't a reflection of her whole collection because it did get divvied up, but I wanted to try and connect to my mum in this way. So I hope you enjoy it, and I hope it encourages you to go talk to your mum, text your mum, tell her that you love her. Hello, welcome to the beach. I'm sure this is terrible. I'm a chapter into Going Dutch by Katie Ford, and we're following Dora, who is this 22-year-old who's just called off her wedding, the fiance, and Jo, who is in her 50s, and her husband just left her for a younger woman. So they're both living on this barge in London, and I assume it's just going to be a story where we follow their growth and their journey. I thought it was romance, but maybe I'm wrong. Hello, we are back after the long weekend. Being at the beach makes me feel alive. I love it so much. Anyway, I'm about 206 pages into Going Dutch, which is a little bit over halfway, and I don't think I like it. I'm kind of bored. There's something about the writing that's just not doing it for me. Like, we move so quickly from scene to scene. It's always like they're doing this and now they're doing this and now they're doing this. It's like in 2 pages we can have, I don't know, 3 separate scenes of now they're at the pub doing karaoke and now they're back on the boat and now they're talking to this person, and that, like, there's no time for the characters to actually develop and to actually feel any emotion. I tabbed one thing, which is an example. Jo, who's the older woman, goes back to her house because she needs to get some things, and she realizes that her husband's new girlfriend has, basically changed everything about the house. She's put new wallpaper in and curtains and all that kind of stuff. And this is an emotional moment, right? But we have basically 3 paragraphs where Jo sat on a bench in the garden, the back part of which was as yet unchanged. Reality had hit her in the face and she needed to recover. And then, 5-6 sentences later, a tear slid down her cheek, and as she brushed it away, she forced herself out of her pit of grief. She took a deep breath, got up, and went to find Dora. I don't know, there's just not much reflection or actual emotion. And everything's kind of told to us. We don't really see any kind of emotion or relationships between these characters. I do find them quite flat. They're not very distinct, and I don't really care much about them at this point. I don't know, maybe that will change in the second half, but yeah, not really the vibe so far. Also, You Magazine called it top drawer romantic escapism. Like, it's pretty obvious who each of the romantic love interests are supposed to be for each of the characters, but there's not much romantic about it so far. So, I don't know, hopefully it gets better. So I finished Going Dutch, 2 stars, generously. I just think it was kind of bad. I just feel like there was no chemistry between them the whole time. You know, they keep setting up all these scenarios with Dora and Tom and Joe and what's his face? Marcus. But there's no banter, there's no chemistry, there's no like, nothing. It's romantic in the sense that there is no other option but these people. And it says it's a romance story, so that's who they're going to end up with. Yeah, it was just really boring. Even though, moment to moment, they never let anything breathe. It's always doing. We're doing this, now we're making a cup of tea, and now we're going to Holland to fix the boat, and now we're this, and now we're that. It still was somehow not interesting. It was written with absolutely zero tension, with zero emotion. Like, the characters are so flat. The dialogue is not unrealistic, but it's just so boring. Like, you know when you read a good book and you're like, wow, every word has been chosen specifically to tell me something, or to contribute to the story, or to talk about the characterization of this person. It just felt like we had a page count and we had to meet it. Like, there's one point, I'm gonna spoil it for you, I'm sorry, if you had Going Dutch from 2007 on your radar, take it off. It's not very good. There's one point where somebody falls overboard, and somehow that's written in a way with like no tension whatsoever. And I get that this is supposed to be like no stakes, chill fluff that you read in between other things, but I don't know, it still has to be interesting. I still have to care about the characters in order to be invested. So 2 stars. I'll have to look up whether this is just a flop for Katie Ford, or if all of her books are written like this. Trying to think of what my mum enjoyed about this, thinking about where she was at this time. So 2007, I would have been 9, my sister would have been 12. She was working full time. Her and Dad had a business that they ran on the weekends and after work. She was taking my sister and I to dancing and band and all these other extracurricular activities. She cooked dinner every night. She was, you know, working super mum. She was the best. So I get why she would want a book that's just low stakes, not necessarily intellectually challenging, and just, I guess, cozy and fun. It's probably, you know, the same thing that I get out of romance, of, you know, sometimes you just want something where you know exactly what's going to happen, but you enjoy the ride. But I didn't enjoy the ride. And also, if you ever think we haven't made progress, like, reading a book from this time period and the way that women talk about each other and the way that the women describe each other, everyone's fat or thin, or their ass is too big, or anytime anyone puts clothes on, it's like, oh, this doesn't make me look like a tart. Like, oh my god, chill. I'm glad no, that's a lie. I'm not glad I read it. Well, I am, because it was my mum's. I'm never getting rid of it. And now it can sit on my shelves, and I know that it's not very good, and I will never lend it out to anyone, but I'll never let it go, because it's my mum's. Should I unpack that someday? Maybe. But I won't. Hello, I'm making tea, and I thought I'd tell you about The Two Little Girls in Blue. I'm about 220 pages in, like 3/4 of the way now. Please ignore my frizz. It's the end of a long work day, and I live in Brisbane, so sometimes this is simply the vibes that we are working with. It's taken me a while to update you because I do not
like it. We're following this family, and the two little twin girls get kidnapped, and we follow the actual kidnappers with the children. We follow the police, we follow the parents while they're grieving. But what can I tell you from the synopsis? Yeah, the synopsis tells you like about to halfway, which is when it got interesting. So the first half of the book is basically all this setup of the kidnappers planning and taking the kids, asking for this ransom, and then the parents and the family and the police organizing to get the ransom paid, actually paying the ransom, and then getting the kids back, and then all that doesn't go to plan, and then the second half of it is kind of figuring out that, you know, the way they got the kids back and the story that the kidnappers had left with this note isn't all it was meant to be, and also who is the mastermind behind it and why did they do that. So if it wasn't for this reading challenge, I definitely would have DNF'd it in the first half. I don't really connect with the writing style very much. It feels a bit removed from the characters, and the writing style just doesn't do it for me. I didn't really feel the tension in the first half because from reading the summary, you know what happens with the kidnappers, and the thrilling aspect of it doesn't come until the second half when, you know, one of the girls comes back and the other one doesn't, and you know what happens to that. There are a decent number of characters, and I wouldn't say they're incredibly amazingly distinct, and I think that's where it kind of struggled in the first half, but I am enjoying it a bit more in the second half. I do now want to know what happened and who originally did it. But yeah, I don't know. This was published in 2006. So I guess maybe that this was more of what was happening at the time. It doesn't feel like a modern day thriller, that's for sure. I don't think they've written the kids particularly well, but I do think that all the, you know, suspects are quite interesting, and the way that they're all connected is, you know, somewhat compelling. So I definitely will finish it. I so far wouldn't recommend it, but I will tell you my final review soon. It is actually the next day, but I've finished Two Little Girls in Blue, and I think I'm giving it 2.5 stars. The issues I talked about before, I still have all those issues. I know it can be frustrating when someone says, I didn't like the writing. So I've been trying to think about what that actually is. And the exposition feels super clunky and just jammed in there. Let's see if I can find an example. So I'll blank out names and places so it's not a spoiler, but if only I hadn't come to blank, I could have been out of the country by now with all those millions waiting for me. I have my passport. I'll have the plane take me to blank. There's no extradition there. Like, we knew all that information. It's so weird. Like, he wouldn't have been thinking in that kind of way, and it just feels like a clunky way to get that information to us. I also feel like the writing felt very removed, and, you know, it's about these little girls getting kidnapped, but I never really felt for her family. Like, her mother is, you know, portrayed as, you know, borderline hysterical grieving mother, but I never really felt for her much at all. So yeah, this one didn't do it for me. We're 2 for 2 now of not enjoying the book, so I think we need to bring in the big guns. And by big guns, I mean The Kite Runner, which was apparently 3 for 2. Oh my god. Do I peel off the 20-year-old sticker? Probably older than that. I made it worse. Oh boy. It was also $21.95. Wow. Books haven't got that much more expensive. So The Kite Runner, I remember my mum raving about this, and one of my friends recently read this and also absolutely loved it. It's critically acclaimed. I think I'm set up for success with this one.
are back from Sydney, back to the real world. Sadly, apparently you have to work to pay for holidays, which I think is rude. But we had such a good time. There was so many good bookshops in Sydney, so many cool independent bookstores. But claps for my restraint. The only books I bought were Minor Detail by Adania Shibli and translated by Elizabeth Jurquet. It's a Palestinian story. I've heard really good things about it. It wasn't available at my library, wasn't available at my local bookstore here in Brisbane, so this one up in Sydney. I've never seen this cover before, but I'm really keen to read this one, so that was that. And then also, this is kind of random, but I got this beautiful version of The Count of Monte Cristo. Isn't it so pretty? It's so pretty. So we there was this outdoor cinema that was set up on the harbour, and you could see like the Sydney Harbour Bridge and the Opera House, and they were screening the newest version of The Count of Monte Cristo that came out in 2024, and it was amazing. It was so good, except we got rained out halfway through, so don't actually know what happens in the end. So Will and I decided that we're going to read it. It is a tome, so look out for that. We're going to buddy read that at some point. Anyway, The Kite Runner was my holiday read, so I must apologize. I have one chapter left. Read it on the plane, read it at the airport, things like that. This is amazing. This is the redemption this video needed. Claps for mum, wherever she is. This book made me cry on the plane in public. So, you know, that's where we're at. It's the 1970s in Afghanistan, and we're following Amir throughout his entire life as he grows up. And we're kind of seeing Afghanistan's evolution through him. So we start off in the 70s and he's a boy and he is friends and playing with his father's servant's son. You know, there's a lot already, even in those early stages, about that power imbalance and about race and class and things like that. Then with the political instability, him and his father, his Baba, they move to the US, and it's about their journey there. And it's one of those, you know, really character-driven stories. Not to say that nothing happens, but it is harrowing. You know, it's very confronting. There's, you know, graphic scenes of all descriptions. The main character, Amir, he's not a likable person. He's not making good decisions, but he is a child, and then he's an adult who's been through a lot of trauma, and oh dear. Sorry, I might not put it in. The setting is fabulous. The characters are so nuanced and have so much depth. As I said, you know, you're not meant to like Amir. Doesn't really know who he is, and it's a story of redemption. It's a story of family and identity and place and what it means to have a community and a home and your home country. As I said, there's only one chapter left, and it would have to go pretty off the rails for this not to get a good rating for me, because I'm really enjoying it. Let's finish it off. So here I am talking very passionately to you about what I thought about The Kite Runner, but there's no audio on this clip, which is very exciting. So I'm going to tell you in the voiceover, and you can watch me, you know, be very passionate about this book. It's 5 stars, in case that's not obvious. It can't be anything but 5 stars. It is so expertly written. I love literary fiction when it comes to me at the right time. This is a really difficult book to read, you know. I can't read books like this all the time because, it's depressing, but that's, you know, this is life for some people, and it's important to read these stories. It's important to get different perspectives. That's one of the many reasons why I read. I learned so much about the history of Afghanistan through this book. I felt so much for these characters. The writing is not overly flowery, but it is really beautiful. Really well done. I just want to read you some of my favorite quotes. Children aren't coloring books. You don't get to fill them in with your favorite colors. And that's the thing about people who mean everything they say. They think everyone else does too. yeah, those are just some examples. I highly recommend this if you enjoy stories with really nuanced characters that you're not necessarily meant to like, stories about grief and family and trauma and belonging. Yeah, I really love this one, and I'm so glad we have a 5-star for this video. So there we have it. We had some losers, we had some winners, but most importantly, we read some of my mum's books, and I got to share with you some things that I love about her. If your mum is still here, if you have a relationship with your mum, text her right now. Tell her how much you love her and how grateful you are for her, because we just don't know. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Can you see me in it?
Yeah, there's actually that's a good, yeah. Get your feet in it first.
Yeah, shut up.